Hello and welcome to Let's Talk About Money. Today, I'm joined by Lise Boucher, a financial coach and founder of Solterra Money, which we'll get into that name very soon. Lise helps women heal their relationship with money, build financial literacy, and take control of their financial future, especially those navigating a one-income lifestyle. So, Lise, I'm so stoked to have you on the podcast. Thank you for coming.
Well, thank you very much, Brianna, for having me. I am thrilled to be here. I am completely honored by the opportunity. I love your podcast, and I love that we've been able to connect on social media and exchange some wonderful ideas about money. And so I'm excited to be here and dive into a subject matter that I'm so passionate about, but also have a lot of personal experience with.
Well, that makes two of us. You have actually such a unique perspective in the online space when you're talking about money, because you talk a lot about those who have a single income, who don't live with a family or who are not partnered. Can you tell me a little bit about how you started working with these folks and why you think it's important specifically to have financial services aimed at this subset of the population?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. So for one, I think we need to get clear on this whole concept of single income, because I think somebody can be living off of a single income but not necessarily be single. So what we want to be talking about here is people who are part of a single income household. They are the only person. They are living in a solo dwelling, and so that kind of changes the perspective of how we think about their financial needs. And often those people will become single either by chance or by choice, right? And so I want to just make that distinguishing factor, because I think dual income households really have a lot of different advantages than single income households do. And you could have maybe more than one source of income if you're in a single income household. So I just want to kind of clarify that. But I think, society has created the stigma around being single, and they are set up to empower individuals that are in partnerships. And I feel that the financial industry in particular really does cater to those partnerships, and the advice caters to that. And I think there needs to be a different kind of conversation for single people around the issues, the opportunities, the challenges that impact them, and how their financial planning can happen in a way that sort of propels them towards financial independence. So that's one of the things that I've really prided myself on focusing on in this business, is to give a different view, a different conversation, and a different understanding around those issues.
You're so right when you're saying that the financial advice that we give to our clients is often set up around this idea of a partnered two people and two incomes that are coming together as either a marriage or a family or whatever that looks like. And even in my capacity, when I'm working professionally with my clients, qualifying them for mortgages, that's always a question I ask is, are you partnered? Are they coming in on the mortgage? And then if somebody is single, and I'll be fully transparent, my single home buyers are much less frequent than my couple home buyers. So this is another thing that I think we don't think. I personally am married, and I don't think about that very often. We were talking in the pre-interview about conversations I've had with my friends who have, now that I'm in the financial space, brought up things like, hey, it's harder for me. And I don't think that, and I hear a lot, because I don't have kids, people don't validate what I'm going through. And I'd like to hear your thoughts on that too, because as females, we think, oh, mothers have it really hard. But there are other people that exist in this world that are trying to make it and not really fitting in the services that are provided. Can you add some color to that?
Yeah, so maybe what I'll do is I'll kind of approach this from the perspective of some of my own experiences. So there was a time, so I'm a woman in my early 40s. There was a time in my 20s where I I literally thought that I would not be able to do certain things financially because I wasn't in a relationship or I wasn't paired up. I saw many of my peers going down those paths. They were partnering, they were starting to buy homes, and they were starting to take their life in these traditional paths that we're used to seeing. And so I think that one of the things that makes it really difficult for single people to move forward along these financial paths is they have this limiting belief that it's not possible for them. Because all of the examples that we see out in the world and in the media are of people doing those things with somebody else by their side. And it took me a long time, a lot of different opportunities or decision making to kind of realize that that's actually not the case. That the folks around you are doing what they're doing, but you have just as much of an opportunity to set yourself up financially to be successful and to achieve those accomplishments. But you have to set your expectations right. I think we need to remember that it's going to take us a little bit longer to get to where we want to be with our goals, just by nature of the fact that we just don't have as much money coming in. And that we have to pay attention to that. We have to pay attention to that and then take some intentional action in order to get there. And then also too, like, you start to have conversations with people who are on different paths, and you realize that a lot of the advice that they're giving you is, oh, this will happen for you. You'll meet someone and you'll be able to do all those things once you meet someone. Don't worry about it.
It's all predicated on the assumption that you will be partnered, that this is the goal.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And for some people, that isn't the goal. And if I'm really honest, I think for me, yeah, I thought maybe that would be the goal, but the majority of my adult life, I was single. I did have relationships, but they were never to the extent that we were cohabitating or we were sharing financial responsibilities. And I just started to realize that if I took control of my own financial destiny, if I started to pay more attention to my money, I could build the confidence to continue to have these solo experiences without the need to put myself in a situation where I had to feel pressure to find my partner or my soulmate, or even to think that because I didn't have that, I couldn't achieve what I wanted to achieve in my life. And being single most of my adult life allowed me to do so many things because I didn't have someone else to rely on, or to actually conform with or to compromise with in order to make some of those things move forward. So
let's talk about that. Let's talk about the advantages to living on a single income that people may overlook. Can you draw a picture of what that looks like for you?
Well, I like to say you get to do whatever you want. Within your resources, you get to do whatever you want. You have control over your values. You have control over your goals. And you have control over what you put your resources to, your time, your energy, your money. And I think that's really important. That kind of control, if you're a control enthusiast, like I am a little bit of a control enthusiast, that's a very powerful place to be because you get to decide where you kind of shift those parts and pieces to sort of build the life that you want. I also think that you have the ability to make decisions, financial decisions that are best for you. You can decide where you want to live. You can decide how you want to live. You can decide how you want to give your money, how you want to spend your money, how you want to earn your money. You can make decisions to move to a new city, to start a new career, and no one else is going to be impacted by that. And that's something that I really, I talk a lot about with my friends. I keep saying, yeah, like I have this great life, and they see it too. They say, Lise, you're able to do all of the things that you want to do because there's nobody else holding you back. And then the other thing that I think is really important is that single people must pay attention to their money. It's a non-negotiable. And because of that, a lot of single people that I know, and myself included, they will take the path towards financial responsibility. So they will take ownership of their financial literacy. They will learn how to develop problem solving skills. So when things happen in life, they're set up for success. And I think that's a real opportunity for personal growth that people don't realize. And that's been something that I've really prided myself on in my journey, and actually is what has led me to pursue this path in financial coaching. So I really want to give people this picture that the advantages are really about independence, autonomy, the ability for your own decision making. And it's not to say that being in a relationship, people can't do that. But being in a relationship, you're always having to think about someone else. And if you have kids, you're always having to think about little ones and so on.
And your partner's money habits or money stories or money garbage, whatever is going on, right? You can very much control your own destiny, really, when you are the one in control of the funds. So thank you for sharing that perspective. I think that's so important too, because it's destabilizing, right? When somebody leaves a relationship, breakup, divorce, whatever it may be, and that mindset isn't immediately available, I think, for many women in that situation. And it takes some time to kind of see, okay, I can navigate in this space and this is a good place for me. So let's talk about goal setting as somebody who may not just have one income coming in, but is the single earner. We'll talk about multiple streams of income later because I do want to get into that. But say I am a woman, mid-30s, single, want to buy no debt, want to buy a home. Now that's going to look way different for me than it will look like for my coupled friends. So other than stretching out the timeline, maybe, what else can I do to set a realistic goal of home ownership?
Oh, that's a great question. And that's a little bit of a loaded one because it's going to depend on every individual person. I think, again, I'd like to tie a little bit back to my experience because there's elements of my experience that I think could be helpful to some people. And then I'll add on to that things that maybe weren't part of my story. So I think income is really important, right? Knowing how much you bring in and knowing how your cash flows, right, is an important part of determining whether or when that path to home ownership is going to be. And so if you feel like you're at a place where your income is insufficient for you to accomplish that goal, you might want to have a goal to look at ways to increase your income. The other thing is look at who can help you. Who can help you achieve that goal? Who has not only some financial resources that can help you, but who has sort of the know-how to help you navigate some of these big financial decisions? So as an example, I would love to say that my path to homeownership involved a lot of hard work and grit to build up a savings over 10 years and whatnot. I was lucky. Well, I was lucky and unlucky at the same time. I got help from a family member, but it was in the form of an inheritance. So, my mom passed away when I was 31 years old, and it was a really sad moment in my life, but she left me a wonderful gift. It was a small inheritance, and it was enough for me to use that money in a good way to down the road be able to put that towards homeownership. But when that happened, or when I received that gift, I wasn't making enough money, right? And so my goal had to be to increase that income. But other people might have other, family members who want to support them. They might get gifts or other financial windfalls that they could put towards that goal. So it's important to remember that those advantages could be accessible to you and that you should use them. The
Yeah,
other
to look at the full, I'm just going to stop you there for a second, Lise. I think I want to dig into what you were saying there to look at the full picture. Because some people having come into money would then go see myself or a mortgage professional and say, hey, what can I do with this? What can I qualify for? And there are two ways that you can go about it if you don't qualify for the income that you need. Either invest it, grow it until you are in such position that you can purchase a home with the income that you're claiming, which it sounds like what you did. But
exactly.
then there are other folks who are like, well, all or nothing, that's fine. I'm going to blow it on whatever. And then they pivot and they decide to maybe invest in something else that's not going to help them attain home ownership, but they lose sight of that big goal without seeing all the options. So I think what you did was quite wise, and I'll let you continue.
Yeah, and I think what you point out is great, is explore the options. But I even think like now you're taking me down to something like more fundamental than that, and which I should have probably started to talk about is know what you want in your life. Right? Know what you want.
Alignment.
Alignment. Know what you want in your life. And I think one of the things that I got really good at was I explored what I wanted in my life, how I wanted to live, what I wanted that to look like, when I wanted to retire, what I wanted out of my career. And if you don't take the time to sit down and envision your life, and look at the areas in your life where maybe you're not satisfied, look at ways at how you can make improvements or different paths than you can take, like that's really your starting point. So you have to decide that this is what you want. And then when you zoom out and you look at the opportunity and you look at what's available to you, then you can start to sort of pinpoint, these are the things that I need to do in order to get myself from here to there. And then if you need help to figure that out, then talk to people who can help you. Talk to people like yourself, a mortgage professional. I mean, that was one of the first steps that I took to understand whether I could really afford it. And if it's not home buying, if home buying is not your goal, maybe it's something else, talk to a financial planner, talk to a financial coach, talk to an advisor. There's so many professionals out there that can help guide you down the right path or to help you look at the specific things that you should be focusing on. And then the last thing I think that I want to touch on just on this particular point around goals is like know where you're at and know how to kind of protect that, right? To grow your money and to protect that. So if you're wanting to buy a home or make some big financial decision and you don't have a safety net, right? Like an emergency fund or whatever. We talk about emergency funds a lot in the personal finance space. You got to kind of think whether you're really ready to move forward with that, because the cost that you incur in some of these goals can really set you off if something happens where you have a loss of income or you face illness or you face any other kind of major emergency that can set you back from achieving that goal. So I would say make that a priority in your financial goal setting as kind of like a midpoint to accomplish before you move on to the next big thing.
Absolutely. And I'd like your expertise or your input on this. Typically, I tell my clients that they should have 3 to 6 months of expenses saved in their emergency fund in something like a TFSA. So it's growing at least a little bit. What do you suggest for people who are single? Would the 3 to 6 months of expenses satisfy an emergency fund, or would you suggest more money because there's only one income coming in?
So that's a great question. I think it'll depend on the person and their comfort level.
Yeah.
I would say 3 to 6 months is a good starting point. 9 months might be more comfortable. 12 months might be more comfortable. I would say today, let's consider the fact that I I haven't been gainfully employed in a couple of years and I'm starting my business and I'm relying on savings, I have an additional emergency fund of 12 months of expenses because I just don't know where all of this is going to go. And there's some things I have control over and there's some things that I don't. So I think it's going to depend on the person, their comfort level. I would always move them towards the side of it doesn't hurt to have a little bit more if that helps you sleep at night. So
I am with you in that sentiment, especially for those entrepreneurial folks out there. It's 2025. The world's on fire a little bit. Like, let's keep our savings. Let's pad that fund. That would be my best advice. Okay, let's pivot a little bit. I want to talk about financial loneliness because I know myself and my husband, like we talk about money, and when we have goals, we cheer each other on, and there's this good juju around doing it with somebody, right? But there's also these incredible communities of women who are talking about money, and how do we combat financial loneliness?
Yeah, I think that's an excellent question. And there are a number of different ways to do that. So for me, I've always looked to people in my life who I feel safe talking about money with, people who want to talk about money. And one of those
You don't strong arm people into having the conversation.
Well, one of those people. So on, like, if you follow me on Threads, I talk about my 80-year-old father sometimes. Okay. And he'll listen to this and he'll hate that I'm referring to him as my 80-year-old father, but we love talking about money. We talk about investing. I talk about, hey, what should I do with my money? Or I have this idea. I want to put money into this. What do you think? He's kind of been that person that I've spitballed ideas with. And I think that's really helped me kind of feel like I'm not alone and in my ability to make some big decisions. But I also have started to encourage my friends to talk about money. So we will get together. Like the other weekend, we got together and we were talking about money and we were talking about different things because we're all doing different things. And I think it's important to find people that you trust, that you can that will talk about money where you're at. So what I mean by that is, like, if there are things that you're uncomfortable revealing, like maybe talking about your debt or talking about this amazing salary that you have, it's okay to kind of not full disclose everything. Like, talk about money in a way that you're comfortable. And I really encourage people to do that. And then there are communities of people that are on social media. There's Facebook groups. There's probably meetup groups in real life that you can find like-minded folks who are in similar situations as you are to talk about some of those challenges. And often the challenges we face as single people, that loneliness about money or the financial loneliness that we talk about, it's a little bit of loneliness in other areas of our lives. And so that kind of having that social connection is just a great way to sort of mitigate those feelings of having to do life by yourself. And so that network and those connections, like, lean on them, lean into them. You'd be really surprised to find out that there are other people like you and they've had common experiences.
And all parties are benefiting in that
Exactly.
situation. Everybody who's talking about money is growing and is learning something. I think that's, yeah, if I could strong arm all of my friends into talking about money, I would, but that's just me. So tell me a little bit then about, we mentioned earlier that single earner doesn't mean single income. So if I'm wanting to investigate different ways of earning income, multiple streams of revenue, where do I start, Lise? How do I start this?
Okay, so that's a great question. And I'm not sure I'm the expert on this, but I'm going to give some ideas. I know there are experts who will tell you how to, like, have multiple streams of income and increase your income. So what I would say is, if you have a typical 9-to-5 job, that's great. Really cherish that, focus on it. Don't let anybody tell you that your 9 to 5 job is not going to help you build wealth or be financially successful. I don't believe that at all. But I think if you're looking to supplement your income, consider what kind of transferable skills you have or what kind of hobbies and passions you have that you can monetize. And it doesn't mean that you have to turn that into your full-time job. It just means that maybe you look for ways to bring in an extra $500 a month, $1,000 a month that you can literally put directly to your financial goals. So that's one way to do it. The other thing, just kind of on transferable skills, is I see a lot of like Upwork and Fiverr, these platforms where, maybe you're a project manager and you can manage a great project. You're in the construction industry and maybe you can offer your services to help folks manage their renovation projects, for example. You can put your services on some of these platforms and see if there are people that are, you can match the need to the service that you're offering. I also think that sources of income can be more than just work. If you are investing your money, if you are building your investment portfolios, if you have investments that are earning dividends or interest or any kind of distribution, and you feel that it's something that you want to have, like you want to have access to that income and use it in a way that benefits you, by all means do that. Like these are kind of excellent income streams if you need them. Otherwise, just reinvest that income and your money then grows exponentially.
And if you Sorry, I'll just add here, especially if you're a single person, please use compounding to your advantage. Like if you're not investing that extra, then what are you doing, girl? Like we need to be investing. Exactly. We're in inflationary times. We need to outpace that, and especially on one income. If you can invest, you should do so.
But one of the things I just kind of touch on this multiple sources of income when you're like a solo dweller, you're responsible for everything in your life when you're by yourself, right? There's nobody to share in the burdens of household maintenance and personal maintenance and doing all this stuff. So be careful about overextending yourself in an effort to earn more money, because it's easy for that to learn to kind of lead to burnout when you don't have support from somebody else to manage some of this stuff. So I would say that, a good starting point would be see how you can make more in your 9 to 5 job, right? Promotion, asking for a raise, looking at how you can improve your performance to get a bigger bonus, whatever that may be. And then once you've exhausted that, go the route of, sort of other avenues that you could start to earn extra money. Because, even if you started with 5 ideas for how you can make an extra $500 to $1,000 a month, you'd be really surprised at all the great things that you can come up with. And they're not that hard.
Mm-hmm. And it's a journey, right? Like it's not all or nothing. It's not right away. But as you start exploring these options, then other things they come to fruition. So exactly. I think that's great advice. Lise, we're coming to the end of our interview time now, but I want you to tell the people, where can they find you? How can they work with you?
Okay, that's the easy part. So I have a website, solteramoney.com. And there you can find out a little bit more about me and my financial coaching services. I'm also very active on Twitter. I'm getting more active on Instagram. So my handle in both of those places are @SolteraMoney. And for those that want to connect on LinkedIn, Soltera Money has a business page, but you're welcome to connect with me personally, Lise Boucher. And I would encourage anyone to reach out, to contact me if they want some help in their own financial future. And you don't have to be single. You can also be in a relationship, but if you're independently minded person, I don't discriminate. So yeah, I'm available to kind of explore that a little bit further.
So get a hold of Lise if something resonated with you, or if you want to pick her brain about something you heard on the podcast today. Thank you so much, Lise, for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. This was really fun.